All right, hey Boats, that's a great question, especially coming from Sector San Diego along the front lines of the southwest border, because that's where we're seeing marijuana make its arrival into the United States. And it's being harvested, distributed by the Sinaloa cartel. And so I look at who's behind this, the transnational criminal organizations, and it's not just me, Commandant of the Coast Guard. It's our federal, it's our state, it's our local partners as well. The regional coordinating mechanisms that we have as we go after this threat, but we're really going after the organization. It just so happens that marijuana is their commodity, which is a big part of their financial operating base. And we owe it to folks like Senior Chief Terrell Horn, whose life was taken during a conga interdiction. So yes, we are a federal law enforcement agency, the lead agency in the maritime domain, and we are in this campaign for the long haul. So Boats, great question. Thank you for teeing that one up for us. IS-1 Shajari, it's great to hear from you again, Brian. Last time we talked, you were briefing me down in San Antonio, and you set the bar when it comes to how to brief the Commandant of the Coast Guard. Now you pose a very thought-provoking question. It really has two components to it. First of all is the size of our reserve component. And I want to thank you for going from active to reserve and bringing your proficiency into our reserve component. As you may know, we've drawn down our reserve component and we have hit bottom. We will not draw down our reserve component below the level where it stands today on my watch. The second part of this is proficiency, and it really comes down to how we manage our reserve component. I've directed our Deputy Commandant for Mission Support to undertake a manpower study to minimize the amount of churn that we place on individuals like you who serve our nation, yet travel great miles at great expense to a drilling unit in order for them to perform their drilling weekends. I want to put an end to that to the maximum extent possible. So you've got my full support in this endeavor as we look at how do we optimize the use of our reserve component in this 21st century. And it's people like you that make me extremely proud to serve as your 25th Commandant. Again, Brian, thanks for this great question. Petty Officer Sutton, thanks for this question. So 2 out of 3 questions right now coming from bosun mates, our deep thinkers. But thank you for this as we talk about proficiency, we talk about manning levels. Well, let me personalize this for just a minute. This is my 8th command, now being in command of the Coast Guard. Do I have all the people I need to get all the missions done today in the Coast Guard? Absolutely not. When I was CO of a patrol boat during the Mariel boat lift, did I have all the crew that I needed to get the job done? Again, absolutely not. So we need to look at how do we make best use of the people that we do have. And what practices do we have in place right now that erode proficiency at our workplace? Now you may leave this unit and perhaps you go up to the Northwest. You go to a whole new AOR, you need to do area familiarization, a different mission set, and you go from being the most proficient bosun mate at Station Gulfport to being the least proficient up at Sector Puget Sound. So we need to look at how we manage our workforce. How do we specialize? We have cyber, we have intelligence driving operations, very complex platforms. We need to specialize much more in today's Coast Guard than we have in yesterday's Coast Guard. We need to look at your rating in particular. Bosun mates have a wide suite of skill sets, and some of those are life and death decisions. And so we need to make sure that we minimize churn in our workforce so we can grow proficient people like you that we have standing the watch at Station Gulfport. Thanks for the question, Boats. Hey Kevin, great question when you talk about my relationship with the 114th Congress, because actually I've had a relationship with the 113th, the 114th, and also have one with the 115th and the 116th Congress. It's important that all members on the Hill understand just who the Coast Guard is. So I'm in marketing and sales for the Coast Guard. I spend about 70% of my time telling the Coast Guard story because quite honestly, many members on the Hill, especially those in the nation's heartland, don't fully appreciate the value of the Coast Guard. The good news is they now understand. The challenge for the Coast Guard is having repeatable and reliable budgets, and that has been the biggest fiscal challenge for the Coast Guard as we go through wide swings year in and year out. But we are relevant to this nation. We've identified 4 key areas: Western Hemisphere, Arctic, cyber, the energy renaissance. But with each and every one of those, you do need to recapitalize the Coast Guard. Not just platforms, but we need to invest in our people as well. We've got the best workforce I've ever seen in my Coast Guard career. And trust me, I am selling the Coast Guard, and I've got a great product to sell to this Congress and to the 115th and the 116th to follow. So again, thank you for that question, shipmate. All right, Dustin, you pose a very intriguing question for me. As I thought about this, I might think about Jesus Christ, the Prophet Muhammad. Could I get them at the table together as we look at secular violence in the world? But there's 2 people that I would especially want to have at the table. One is my father. Now, ironically, he passed away 12 years ago today. And the second is my son. He passed away 3 years ago tomorrow, my oldest son. And so I would just like to be able to have one last word with my father and my son, how they would like me to live my life in their memory. So for me, yes, this is very personal, but I carry on their legacy each day that I am honored to serve this nation as our 25th Commandant, as a son, as a father, as a husband. So thank you for that question. Patricia Edgecombe, thank you for this question, and thank you for your service out at our base, St. Louis, where a river literally runs through it. And what a great question you pose about our inland river tenders. This is an area that, as you may know, if you follow me on Facebook, I am keenly interested in as well. Just several weeks ago, I was on board the Coast Guard cutter Cimarron. Cimarron is one of our newer inland river tenders. She is younger than me, but she's still 53 years old. And as we all know, that these ships were not designed at a time where every billet is open as they are today for women to serve in our Coast Guard. We are going to need to recapitalize our inland river tenders. So much of our energy commerce, our grain, our coal rides on this inland river system, and the mariners that ply these waters rely upon the Coast Guard to mark these waters as we've had for years on end, and we'll need to continue to do this as I look well into the future. And so yes, I look at modernizing this fleet, and as we modernize these, we make sure that they accommodate the workforce of the 21st century so that they are open, that they are configured so we can have mixed gender crews on these very small cutters maintaining our inland waterway highway system. So again, thank you for that question, and again, thank you for your service at Base St. Louis. Semper Paratus.